I'm amazed that they think it'll make any difference. And the fact is, I'm sure that it won't, and I'm sure that this is just inflated rhetoric, which is the sort of sad direction in which this election has gone. And I think it's very Trumpy, but fine. He wants to put the British are coming. That's funny. That's Paul Revere. That's making out like there's election interference. He wants to call us wants to call the Labour Party. I don't know if he's met Keir Starmer, the far left Labour Party, this incredibly right wing man. Is that it's sort of comical. It's comical. There's any notion that the useless activists of this useless Labour government could do anything to help Kamala Harris. They nearly muffed the easiest election in recent electoral history. I mean, it was an absolute gimme, and they got this sort of notional majority, but they didn't get anything like the share of the popular vote they should have done. They're all useless. They're all idiots. They're all sort of gap-toothed flunkies who want to get out there and go to ball games and sort of shag Americans and stuff. I mean, they're not going to be able to do anything at all.
We're going to talk about the emerging row between Donald Trump and the Labour Party. The 50-50 shot to be the next president has put a complaint in about Labour activists campaigning for his opponent. Has Labour risked putting the whole country on the American naughty step?
Also today, the most senior police officer in the country wants to shield his officers from prosecution if they kill or injure someone on duty. Do the police need extra protection?
And the Children's Laureate has told us that children were being hit by a catastrophic happiness recession because parents don't play with their children enough anymore. Is he right? Lots to discuss this morning. Let's begin with events in the US. Student, juvenile politics from Labour officials, as Andrew Neil said, or just free speech and activists doing what they do. The Trump campaign is livid about Team Starmer's cooperation with the Kamala Harris campaign, specifically the party's head of operations, Sophia Patel, offering housing to those who would take time off to go to North Carolina. She said 100 people were already going. Trump says it's blatant election interference. This is what the Environment Secretary, Steve Reed, had to say about it earlier.
And that's perfectly normal for supporters of one party in one country to campaign for a sister party in another. I've seen Americans here in our election as well, but none of this has been organised or paid for by the Labour Party. It's individuals choosing to spend their own free time and their own money in the way that they choose.
Has the Labour Party funded any of this? Particularly,
No.
I'm asking about accommodation for activists.
No, as I understand it, people are hosted in the homes of supporters in the other country. And that's perfectly normal. As I say, it happens both ways round.
And is the Labour Party organising the accommodation?
No.
That's the Environment Secretary, Steve Reed, chatting to us a bit earlier on. Giles, to start with you, I mean, the Environment Secretary says it's perfectly normal. And I mean, there is a point there, you know, people have gone over to campaign for the Republicans or the Democrats in the past from the UK, but is it a bit naive?
Is it naive of anybody? No, I don't suppose it's naive. Well, I'm amazed that they think it'll make any difference. And the fact is, I'm sure that it won't. And I'm sure that this is just inflated rhetoric, which is the sort of sad direction in which this election has gone. And I think it's very Trumpy, but fine. He wants to put the British are coming. That's funny. That's Paul Revere. That's making out like there's election interference. He wants to call us wants to call the Labour Party. I don't know if he's met Keir Starmer, the far left Labour Party, this incredibly right wing man. It's sort of comical. It's comical. There's any notion that the useless activists of this useless Labour government could do anything to help Kamala Harris. They nearly muffed the easiest election in recent electoral history. I mean, it was an absolute gimme, and they got this sort of notional majority, but they didn't get anything like the share of the popular vote they should have done. They're all useless. They're all idiots. They're all sort of gap-toothed flunkies who want to get out there and go to ball games and sort of shag Americans and stuff. I mean, they're not going to be able to do anything at all. And the idea, I mean, it's flattering to Britain, surely. The idea, if he calls it election interference, it makes out like we're Russia, like we're Putin, like we can really influence things, when we know that America think of us as a sort of poxy little island full of turfs that can't really affect anything. We're on the peripheries of history. We've got our silly king going off around Australia trying to garner some interest from boomerang throwers, and now what a massive accolade to have America caring at all what we do. I think
it's North Carolina they're going to, which is one of the key swing states. Jim actually sent us a message saying, I am from North Carolina. I think this is insane. Can you imagine the reaction of some fool on the back porch to some earnest activist with a British accent showing up at your door? I mean, that's also a key point, isn't it, Charles? Would this even work? Are they even helping Kamala Harris?
I don't. Well, it's interesting. I can't imagine that they are really. It's true that you do get a sort of back and forth. It's funny, this notion. So he goes the far left Labour Party. As it happens, the Labour Party is to the left of the Democrats. The Democrats are essentially things like they are sort of pro-guns. They want to introduce some controls on not giving assault weapons to certified lunatics and stuff. But they're basically pro-carrying guns. They're basically a small government party, the Democrats. They would be horrified. Most Democrats, particularly Southern Democrats down there in the Carolinas, would be horrified by the idea of nationalized industries or a national health service. One interesting thing, I think you said it was North Carolina, Libby said it was South Carolina. The Carolinas generally. I was in one of them, and I can never remember which one it was. The one, Charleston, South Carolina. I was there about 10 years ago. Really interesting thing. In the sort of posh bit in Midtown, on loads of the houses, they were flying Confederate flags and Union Jacks from the same house. And it was really interesting. And it's because in the southern states, and there's some of them are still, they're not really, there's a thing about the Confederate flag now, whether you should or shouldn't. And it's got these connotations with antebellum slave laws and that kind of thing. But basically, the old-fashioned Southern Democrats, and in the South, as you know, in the old slave states, the Republicans were like Abraham Lincoln, were the ones who were the abolitionists, and the Democrats were the pro-slavery one. They do see a consanguinity with the Union. So if you're an old-fashioned Southern belle with a Confederate flag out, then you're into the British. So it'd be really weird for them to have the Brits showing up and saying that we're the left-wing ones. It's all terribly confusing.
How do you think Keir Starmer will find him to work with? What do you think their relationship will be like?
Well, that's all optics, isn't it? It's all really about how the civil servants get on behind the scenes and the sort of military leaders and stuff like that. They can just do the handshaking and that business when Trump says the far left Labour Party. I don't think they then talk about politics in those terms and argue about those sorts of things. It is difficult for Keir Starmer because all these junior members of his party running over there. And to be fair, I'm not one of them, but I'm sure I share the same horror of Trump that we all do. It's like it's not just an election. It is this absolute gargoyle who we thought was finished and gone, coming back for 4 more years, which I've said it through the last term. Regardless of the politics, he's just such an appalling human to have to look at and listen to for and now he's besties with Elon Musk. 4 years of that is going to make your ears bleed and your eyes bleed. So there is this kind of emergency thing of like as if it were the coming of Hitler or something, where you've got to run over there and it's all hands on deck. We've got to do something to stop Trump. And I'm sure Starmer feels like that. He's an educated Englishman, this awful painted thicko yank fascist. He must feel the same way that we all do, but he's going to have to pretend not to when Trump wins.
This is going to generate an awful lot of conversation today. Keep your views coming in. You can WhatsApp us 0333 003 2353. Let's turn to the story.